You know, it's about time we talked about a Mad Cave Studios book here on the podcast. And one of the reasons that I decided to do this, not just because this guy was attached to it, but it just seemed like a really, really cool story called Potions Inc. #1, which is available right now on madcavestudios.com. It is the one and only Erik Burnham. Erik, how you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing great. How are you? How's things with you?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Awesome.
Now, I'm a sucker for a good fantasy story, Erik, and especially when you're dealing with magic, things like that. I'm all in already. So, how'd you
Mhm.
come up with the concept for this one, Potions Inc.?
You know what? I wish I could take more credit, but it was brought to me. It was here's what we're thinking about doing. We want to do a family book, a fantasy book, somewhere all ages, young adult. Here are some character names. These are siblings. These are parents. It's going to have magic, and they're going to come from their world to Earth. That's what was brought to me. And then they said, fill in the blanks. What else do you got? So I ran with it and had some fun trying to see how I could make the bones of what they gave to me interesting to me. And I mean, I had fun doing it. So hopefully it translates and is interesting to the readers as well. But I mean, it just, I worked with the editor, Erica Schultz, Stelladia, the artist. We just bounced ideas back and forth and had more fun with each new idea. Well, what about we do this? What about we do this? And we built it up like that over the course of, the run of the book. And it just, so I, the short version, the skip ahead to the answer version.
We fast
I
forward a
wish
little bit.
I fast forward a little bit. I wish I could take all the credit, but it was a group effort and a lot of fun. So, I mean, you know,
I mean, you're certainly no stranger to working on. You've worked on IPs, of course. You've done creator-owned stuff too. Did this kind of feel like a hybrid of the two of those things?
it is a little bit of a hybrid because I mean it is something new. We're debuting it, we're introducing it to people, so it is creator owned in that way. I mean, we had a lot to do with how it was built. It didn't come to us fully formed, or to me fully formed anyway. And but it is very much still an IP. It is owned by Mad Cave, so those two things came together and it complemented each other very well. The two approaches that I take to creator owned versus IP. And yeah, no, again, I mean, I hate to beat this horse until it's dead, but I had so much fun with it.
And it is a really fun story. I also love the fact that it's a family story. You know,
Yeah.
you've got potions of the family business, which I think is really, really fun. So, would you say that Randall Gast Jones is a black sheep of the family, or is he just kind of a bit lost?
I hate to go with black sheep, so I'm going to say he's a little bit lost. And that's like one of the most relatable things, especially in stories like this, but also in real life. Your family always has expectations for you, even if they don't lean hard on them. They still have expectations, and you're going to notice them if you're at all. If you're not completely oblivious, you're going to notice what the expectations are, even if they're not, hit across the face with a brick. You're going to know what they are, and it feels terrible to not
Mm.
want to lean into the expectations or to not meet the expectations. I think it feels worse when you're not getting any family pressure than when you are. So yeah, he's just a little bit lost. He is I don't know if expected is the right word to
Hmm.
take over the family business, but he is definitely, unless he comes up with something else, that's what they're thinking is going to happen. He doesn't really feel that that's his place, but he doesn't know where he should be. He doesn't know where he should go. As we say in the story, he's tried some other things and
Oh yeah.
they didn't fit him, and he gave up halfway through. So yeah, he's a little bit lost. He's looking for where he needs to be and where he feels right.
I like that Rand's siblings are very definitely more advanced in magic than he is, and maybe some other things too. You can make that argument. So, how would you
Hmm.
describe the dynamic between the three of them?
Well, Rand is definitely he's the older brother, so he should have. I mean, besides the seniority, that's not the word I'm looking for. He should have the leg up. He should have things more figured out. He doesn't. They do. So it's a little bit of an inversion in that way. And honestly, that's kind of how it is in my own family. I have younger siblings, and my two younger brothers are just they're dead on. I mean, they could probably probably retire at a very young age if they wanted to. They knew what they wanted to do very early in life. They ran after it. They excelled at it, and I mean, it's just one of those things. The perception is wow, they're doing so well. What's wrong with me? And that's kind of the attitude I was channeling with Rand there. And I mean, as siblings will do, they're going to give him crap about it.
Oh yeah, of course, no
Yeah.
doubt about that. That's part
Mhm.
of the fun, though. That's part of the fun of the story, which I really love. I thought it was interesting as I was reading through this, and I thought about this more and more as I was going on. One of the tropes that you can see in stories like this is sometimes the parents shunning a character like Rand or ridiculing, but it's actually his parents are actually pretty supportive of him in the story. So was that just kind of a happy accident, or did you kind of want to take a different approach there?
I definitely wanted to take a different approach. I mean, it's kind of goes hand in hand with the not leaning on expectations and not pressuring. But honestly, it's just I'm kind of tired of seeing the you're not where we want you to be, so we're going to play bad cop. We're going to expel you if you don't get your act together, or that kind of thing. Just jerks of the family. I mean, for the most part, there's dysfunction in everybody's family
Sure.
to one degree or another, but for the most part, families love each other. They do
Hmm.
support each other 99% of the time, and well, 89% of the time.
I was going to say, you want to back that
Yeah.
down a little
Let's back that
bit?
up a little bit. Okay, they support each other, maybe not in all things, but they do. They're there for each other,
Mhm.
and it felt right for him to have a loving family and for them to be that way, and it also supports where the story is going later on.
I love that you have a villain named Porcelina. I think that's a great name. And we don't know quite how evil she is yet, but I disliked her instantly, and I think that's kind of the point of a villain
Yep.
of any story. So, how much more are we going to find out about just how powerful she is and what this master plan is going to be in future issues?
You're definitely going to find out more about what she's got in mind, what her deal is, how powerful she is, how she can, excuse me, do some of the things that she can do. And yeah, no, that's just, I'm just like, how far can I go without reaching a spoiler? You know what I mean? My brain is, I caught myself just running
You
into it.
can
But
see when the spoiler filter turns on somebody's face when they really
exactly.
want to
She's like,
say something.
yeah, but no, she's just, and yeah, she is meant to be unlikable but not hateable, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
unlike yeah. See, I
Yeah,
didn't write hate. I was very careful
yes,
about that. I didn't
yes,
write hate.
yeah,
No,
no,
she was very
she's,
very unlikable. Yeah, yes.
yes, yeah, she's just somebody that you can dislike, and that fits in as well. She's competitive. She doesn't like that the Jones family does what she does. She kind
Hmm.
of wants that leg up, and she sees the MacGuffin, and with her family history, has an idea of how to get that leg up, amongst other things, and that's part of the way that the story is going. And she was one of the original characters, one of uh, three original characters that I brought in to patch together some of the ideas that we were cooking up for the book.
Definitely works out well with her in there. We're talking to Erik Burnham, who of course the writer is a writer of Potions Inc. from Mad Cave Studios, which you can get at madcavestudios.com right now. Limited print runs on that too, by the way, if you want to look into that on the website as well. Okay, so you talked about these characters going from blossoming to the realm of Earth and taking your characters out of their comfort zone a little bit. So I'm going to try to get you to tease again. How much fun are we going to have coming up in this second issue and beyond with all of the strange things that they'll encounter?
Oh, it was really option paralysis. There were so many things that we wanted to do, and in stories like this, a lot of times it comes down to you can have your fun, or you can tell your story. you
Well,
can't you can't do as much of the fun as you want without running out of space to tell the story that you said to tell.
mhm.
And we ran into a little bit of that because there were so many things that we could have done and wanted to do, but we had to rail it back a little bit. Um but the biggest thing, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and say it since the book's been out a little bit. We sent them to the West Coast. We sent them to Seattle as opposed to New York
Hmm.
or Los Angeles, or one of the larger cities that you always see in this kind of you know uh, dimension hopping stories. And Seattle brought a little bit different vibe. Um, it offered a lot of opportunity to do some things, and some of the things we wanted to do, I found out weren't possible just because of the time frame we saw it in. I really wanted to do a scene with I don't know if you're familiar with the gum wall in
Hmm.
Seattle. Yeah, that didn't exist in the time period.
Well,
I'm
that's a
looking it up
problem.
and I'm going, oh well, heck, that just ruins that. Then I guess I got a couple of pages
You just
back
go,
now. So,
ah.
mm-hmm. So, I mean, we worked in a lot of the fun. We tried to sneak in some locations that aren't typically used, and some jokes, some references, some subtle stuff. It just, you know, Erica Schultz, again, the editor, and I are both kind of big fans of the 90s. And it's not just because that's when we were young.
Well, I mean, that's a good
So
reason to be. Yeah.
it is, it's the nostalgia trip. It's a good time. It's starting to get mined more and more, but it hasn't gotten quite to the level of the 80s. Anyhow, um, Seattle in the 90s, it gave some interesting opportunities. And the only bummer I had is I wrote the book, oh gosh, coming up on 2 years ago now. I since read books about Seattle and heard stories from my friends who are from Seattle that would have been perfect to use in the book, but they came too late. That
Ah.
is my only regret. So I mean, Knockwood Volume 2. I'll get some of that stuff in
There you
there.
go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to think a little bit further ahead there.
That's right.
So we've got the Forward Stone. We know it's powerful, but beyond that, we don't really know much about it really. So how quickly are we going to learn about what it can really do, and how do you come up with unique ideas when it comes to a powerful artifact like that when you're telling these kinds of stories? Because it seems like these stories tend to have those things. How do
Mm-hmm.
you make a fresh take on something like that?
I mean, you just lean into the fact that sometimes it's going to be a cliche, and cliches work. It is a MacGuffin. It is a magical thing that can do what needs to be done. And in this case, what needs to be done is a very dangerous. I mean, it's something that will affect both Earth and Primaterra. So I mean, it has its dangers, its magical dangers, and Ponsalina and others are going to try to use it to that end, to the dangerous end. That's kind of, excuse me, how we're building the story up. And yeah, no, it's just it can do a lot of things. What can it do? It can do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Can it do this? Yes, the story needs that. It absolutely can do that. Can it do this? The story doesn't need that, so no, it can't. I mean, it's one of those things. Since it's brand new, the rules are still being written. But just super powerful magical MacGuffin. It makes it easier for magical people to do magical things, and it will be the thing that works in the climax. It's the MacGuffin. It's what everybody is after, and it's another one of those things. I was looking for a name for it. Basically, I needed something unique, and this is one of those ones where you play the usual suspects game and start looking around until you spot something. Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, Fordstone. There we go.
Wow. And there's the origin
And
story.
there's the origin story. I mean, every once in a while we get something fun like that works. But I mean, it's the usual suspects game. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a magical MacGuffin. So I mean, I wish that I could say that there was some heavy backstory written into it, but not yet. I'm just that's maybe that's too much inside baseball.
We're selling volume 2 hard here, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hating that at all. Don't
That's
hate it
right.
at all. So I think it's funny though that Rand thinks it's his lucky charm. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was a really interesting way to go about things. So I got me thinking. Do you have a lucky charm, and what is it?
Do I have a lucky charm? I actually do. I do have a lucky charm. It's something that I've had for a long time, and it's a small thing, but a friend of mine, gosh, 20 some years ago, a friend went to vacation in New York and brought me back a subway token just before they stopped using them. And I'm like, this is cool. This is
That is
great.
cool.
It's just a nice little piece of New York. And I went on to write a lot of things that happen in New York, Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man. And, so I mean, it feels lucky in that way. I mean, my bibliography is really connected to New York, and so is this little tiny token.
That's very, very cool. Now, before I let you go, Eric, you just mentioned Ghostbusters. It was Ghostbusters Day last week, so I'm like, I can't not ask you something about Ghostbusters. So you've
Sure.
worked on the comics quite a bit over the years in your career. How did you celebrate Ghostbusters Day. And what are your expectations for this new animated series that was announced by Netflix last week?
Oh, well, I'm excited to see what they do with it. I'm hoping I can work my way into writing on it at
There it
some point.
is. See, that's what I was hoping you would
yeah,
say. I'm just,
if
hey.
yeah, if they're not too far along, if there's space for me, I'd like to find myself in on it. If there's not space for me, I hope there's a second season and I can work my way in there. See, work towards the future. That's the plan. Lay the groundwork. But yeah, no, I'm excited with all the plans that they have. I've heard little bits and little pieces, and some of these little bits and pieces may ultimately go nowhere. They just might be things that they're considering now, but it's all exciting. And I love to see the franchise just taking a step further into new things. So that's very exciting, and I hope to be a part of more. I at least got to have a little bit of fun working with Jan Fujikawa on the upcoming Ghostbusters cookbook. So it was fun to work back with the sandbox on that. But I mean, I'm always hoping for more, just because, man, it's fun. It was one of the most fun jobs I've ever had, and I'd be happy to get back to it anytime.
Most definitely. We definitely hope that you are too. But right now we're talking about Potions Inc., which is available right now, madcavestudios.com. Of course, limited print runs available. You can find out more about that there as well. Erik, remind us when's issue 2 drop.
Gosh, you know what? I didn't see when issue 2 drops, but since this one came out the first week of June, I'm guessing the first week of July. Yeah.
So you can celebrate your 4th of July with potions and wands and magic and fantasy in the world of Seattle.
That's
this
right.
Guy right here. It's Erik Burnham. Thanks so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.